Welcome to the KDrama Show. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Kim.
We're here to unpack your all-time favorite Korean dramas and chat about all the reasons that we find these shows so charming.
And so addictive. And we know you do too, so settle in with some ramen and a boba tea while we dive into the KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim. But I messaged my coworker who actually used to share the office with me, but she got promoted and moved out. Of course, I choose the week that she moves out to try to die alone in my office. But anyway, and I was like, okay, next time
Make a deal.
Make a deal about it. Just be like, I don't want to be the person that died in their office on a cheese croissant.
That's so horrible.
So anyway.
We laughed through our pain.
We laughed through our embarrassment.
Also that.
So there.
We cry through it too. It's okay.
We have all the emotions.
Oh my god.
Speaking of dying, episode 15.
Episode 15.
I'm so angry with you still.
I understand. I don't blame you.
In the most loving way possible.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. The Ashley tea.
The tea. Okay. So again, this isn't dramatic or anything, but there has been, it starts in July of this year in Seoul, Korea. They have tourist day transit passes now.
Oh.
So you can buy 1, 2, 3, or 5 day passes for transit.
Yeah.
To just travel all over through Seoul. And
that's amazing.
That's a big deal because that can be very, very... And not that it's a pain. I mean, traveling in general is just a pain, especially when it's international and to try and figure out I need to go from here to here, but I can't pay for that. But the fact that they have designed a new climate card, because that's what it's called, specifically for tourists.
Very cool.
So that it can be used... and it ranges from 5,000 won, or that's $3.70 for the 1 day pass, to 15,000 won for the 5 day pass.
Wow.
So it's really cheap. Regardless, it's like $8.
I mean, like bus rides are not expensive. Mm-hmm. When we went in like 2019, we would travel around town for $1 a day. Mm-hmm. But to get a full day's worth of bus rides for $3 that's still a
really,
great deal.
Really good.
Because one ride would probably cost like $2 something. I mean, you'd go
quite a distance
where you needed to go.
Right.
But I mean, that's a great deal.
Mm-hmm. And so yeah, it says under the new plan, foreign tourists can purchase the rechargeable transit pass for 3,000 won at the Seoul Tourism Plaza, the Tour Information Center in another location, and then they just have like different safety centers on subway lines 1 through 8, or like convenience stores that are near stations. So, I don't know. I thought that was really cool, especially since I'm planning on going there in probably next year. But
I have
specifically
a little Ryan
designed.
card.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Ryan the Lion.
But the fact that it's designed for foreigners, like that's
helpful. It's less
makes life
intimidating.
a lot easier.
It's less intimidating that way. And then you know that, like, people who sell those cards kind of anticipate you being there. Versus, like, when we went, it was just... Granted, we were being led around by a local, so it was way less intimidating in that regard.
Oh, sure.
But you still feel, like, the stress of travel, not being able to speak the language. But, yeah, we would load up a bus card for, like, $50, and that would take us... anywhere
you needed to go, yeah,
for the 2 weeks or whatever. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my cool little tea. It's not super like crazy or anything, but travel tips are probably going to become part of my tea because I find them constantly, and I'm like, like another travel thing I had seen was there's a I'll have to look it up, but it is a company that you sign up with and they take your luggage for you.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Wait, you showed it to me.
I sent it to you, I think.
Yeah.
And it's, they will take your luggage.
But it's been advertised to me now.
You're welcome. But then, they take your luggage from, the airport, wherever it is, to wherever you're going to stay. Then you don't have to worry about it. Everything is taken care of. And
yeah.
like,
And if you're going to be taking public transportation, that's huge. So episode 15, do you want to start us off?
all right. So we get a little bit more of the background information of when EunTak has been in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And she's walking around, and she goes across this little walkway and passes this man who just says, "Oh, you again." And she just responds, "I know." And then stops and goes, "I've never seen this man before. Why did I just say I know?" And so she tries to chase him down, and she can't find him. And when she stops, there's a woman standing behind her and says, "Oh, it's so nice to see you there." And she turns around like, "What? Okay." And she learns that this woman actually is the one who designed the necklace that she's wearing. She said, "A man came to me about 10 years ago and asked me to make this." And so that word means a match made in heaven in French, or destiny made outside of man's boundary. And so EunTak again is just like confused and staring at her like, "What man?" And she goes, "Well, are you living happily with that man?" And she's just going, "I don't know what you're talking about. I thought this was from my mom.
I don't even have a dad."
Last oppa I had, I was 9. So Goblin is at home, and he's actually staring at the maple leaf from their first trip in Canada. And then we just get this montage of Goblin traveling to different countries and coming back, and like, so he goes like to Russia and he comes back wearing a bunch of fur, and then, or he goes to Italy and he has like a rose in his mouth, and Reaper just is watching him. He's just like drinking, because they do like vodka in boxes, and so I'm assuming it's alcohol. Could be banana milk for all I know.
They do, usually it's soju.
Soju, okay. Hey, I'm down. But he's just sitting there and he's just watching Goblin go in and out, and every time he's just like,
Sad.
"Buddy.
He's trying to fill the void.
Buddy."
It's not going
So
well.
finally, Goblin comes back, and Reaper just kind of is shocked because there's a sarcophagus outside in the door, and we just see Goblin reach his hand out and get out, and Reaper's like, "No, take it back before there's an international scandal. No. And Goblin just opens it and he goes, "We better go. He's really scary when he's angry." And then he just comes back and he goes, Reaper's just like, "Dude, what are you doing? Like, come on." And Goblin just tells him, "I can't go to where she's at and make her upset."
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "Is it better to make me upset?" He's like,
Kind of.
"Okay." And so this is when he falls through the door and EunTak is standing there. And, she asks him, "Did I ever say I was going to Canada?" And he goes, "You said the Maple Nation." She's like, "Yep, that's what I did." And so they've gone off to share their meal that she had promised him. And it's just, they get like these little sandwiches. And
Subway.
I don't know if it was Subway. I don't think it was quite as big, but Goblin asks her, "Is it enough?" as she's trying to take a bite, and she just goes, "I didn't have time to exchange very much money. This is all I can do." And he goes, "No, I meant for me. Like, for the amount that I donated. I want meat." He wants steak.
Yeah.
And she tells him, "I don't like meat." And he goes, "Yeah, that's not true." And she's like, "Excuse me?" He goes, "Well, who doesn't?" And she just gets annoyed and tells him, I'm gonna leave now, basically. And she kind of gets flustered because she doesn't know where she's at. And so he comes up to her and goes, "How about you come with me?" And she tells him, "I feel like I'm a little bit of an inconvenience to that." And he's like, "No, really, it's okay. Like, let's go this direction, because honey, you don't know where you're at." she asks him, if he had been to Canada before, and he tells her, that he had with his first love. And he's just kind of looking at her, just kind of watching her. And she asks him if he has a girlfriend, and he tells her no. We broke up because I had to go far away, but then she forgot about me. And
he's so cheeky.
Trying to, be like, hey, this is what's going on, without saying, hey, this is you. But she tells him that first loves never work out. And it seems that he really loved her a lot. And so then he brings up, he's like, when you catch a leaf when you're walking with the person that, like, with the one that you love, it makes it come true. And she goes, what, did your first love tell you that? And he goes, well, yeah. And she's like, well, apparently that's not true because you're here with me now and not your first love. And he's just, honestly, he's finding her super charming in this moment.
Yeah.
Because he's just like,
but if you knew.
You don't understand. I am with my first love. And so later she's back in her hotel room and she's sitting there and she's trying to remember what she has forgotten and looks out the window and sees Goblin actually sitting on a bench outside and decides that, kind of like Goblin had however many episodes ago, that curiosity will always be dignity. Mm-hmm. And she could just walk straight up to him and is like, did we meet 10 years ago? Like, do you know me? Like, I just have this feeling about this. And he stands up and he asks her, do you like me? And she doesn't say anything and just goes, yes. So what if I like you? I don't have a boyfriend. I just must not, have good luck with men. And she turns around.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. But then she, starts to leave. And he tells her, excuse me, as soon as, and she's turning around saying, excuse me. And they ask each other, actually, to go to dinner. And
it reminds me of the, shall I casually ask you if you want to eat beef? And shall I casually say yes?
Yes. It's very cute.
Yes. But they're at dinner, and we are seeing, the vision from 10 years ago start to, roll through.
Unfold, yeah.
In real time. So, Goblin has walked in through the doorway, and he sees the conversation happening, and he's just kind of smiling to himself like, I guess I was the CEO after all.
I was the CEO punk.
Theory confirmed. So he is just on cloud 9 with this woman that he really didn't think he's ever going to see again. But EunTak gets a little bit prickly at the fact that she learns he's been here with his first love before. And he says, don't worry about it. I'm here with you. And EunTak's like, well, have you met up with her since you've broken up? It's like, how do you answer that? But she starts to go on about how, people who give up on their first love, they like to try to find it again because, people who give up on their first love and think that they can go back and rekindle that, you're just going to be disappointed because you're just living with this fantasy that's going on in your head. It's not going to live up to expectations, so you really shouldn't go back to her. And
because he says, and she's still pretty, and she just goes, waiter!
I need a menu.
I am ready to order now. Because that's when she asks him, instead of still pretty, what about becoming pretty now? I think I'm becoming pretty now.
Yeah.
And he's
like,
he's finding her so adorable in this moment.
He loves that this is causing shadows of the jealousy she used to have about not realizing she was still the first love then and she's still the first love now. So it's kind of he gets to fall in love with her all over again, which is kind of exciting to him, especially considering he had to be away for so long. So to get to have that spark back is just exactly what he wants.
Because he can read her so well.
Yeah, he already knows. I mean, he knows that she's smitten. And he's smitten back. He doesn't care. They're destined. But he asks if they can meet up again tomorrow. And she's like, well, I'm flying out. And he's like, that's fine. When you're leaving? She goes, in the afternoon. He goes, cool, I'll see you in the morning then. And he's like, can I see you after you get back from your trip too? And she's just like, sure. And then she like hides behind her menu. She's just like giggling to her like she's a schoolgirl again. She's
on her cloud nine now.
Yeah, she is. I mean, she's being wooed by this super wealthy,
suave,
good looking,
little eccentric,
a little weird, but so is she. So Sunny's back at her work. She is looking at the footage of Reaper dropping off, or trying to drop off the letter.
Mm-hmm. And she goes, oh, that's why I wanted to go to work. Same, sister. And so actually, DeokHwa meets up with Sunny. And she turns around and we get the wind blowing her hair. And he's just...
Sunny.
Wow. And, you know, she asks him, are you the owner of the building of the former place that I had my chicken shop in? And he's like, yeah. And so she shows him a picture of Reaper and goes, can I have his number? And he goes, wait, you don't want mine? You want his? Are you sure? And
this is like reverse double date with DeokHwa.
Yes, yes, it is. But we actually see that Reaper is walking through the living room with a basket full of laundry, and we just see the laundry basket fall because he's looking, and on his phone it says Sunny not Sunny, calling his phone. And so he's kind of just in this, what do I do now?
Well, he's left her contact in there for 10 years that way, or 9 years that way.
Knowing that it would never be a number that he could see again. So sad.
It is sad.
So EunTak actually the next day is getting ready for her date with Goblin in the morning. And she's got all excited and she's sitting on the couch and she's looking through like a travel guide magazine just to kind of figure out where she wants to go. And she starts to see like the images change. So it's kind of getting like these visions from the past. And so she walks up to the memorial site where Goblin is sitting, and he meets her there, and she asks him, are you a ghost? Like, why are you appearing in front of me? Like, is this you? Did you die here? Because there's that stone with his picture on it.
Remind me at this point, does she knows that she used to see ghosts, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So she's thinking, oh, maybe it's starting again.
Maybe it's coming back.
Okay.
Right. And so he asks her, do you still see them? Mm-hmm. And she goes, how do you know that?
No, if I'd waited 2 seconds. It's just like in real time when I watch. If I just wait.
Love you so much.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. Continue. I am impatient. I ask a lot of clarifying questions, and I'm sure it's a very annoying thing to the people around me, but I like to know what's going on. So.
I like to make her wait.
Yes, you do. That's why I ask questions.
And I don't answer. But she then asks him, are you Kim Shin? Like, did we meet 10 years ago? Like, why don't I remember anything? Why did I write to myself that I could not forget him? Mm-hmm. Why am I his bride? Like, she's begging for answers, and he just tells her no, and you need to go back to the hotel. Like, it's getting late. Because he's just like, you aren't ready for those answers yet because you're not able to remember them right now. And then we cut back to Reaper and Sunny, and Reaper is sitting in probably the same cafe that they used to meet at all the time. Mm-hmm. And he's just kind of sitting there, and you can see that he is, like, really nervous. Like, I haven't seen her in a decade.
Also excited.
Yeah, but, like...
But holding out, like, hope.
What do I do? And so then Sunny walks in, and she sits down, and he doesn't say anything. She goes, why aren't you surprised that I just sat down with you? And he's just like, I mean, I guess I kind of figured you were the one that called. I mean, that's honestly a really good cover. Like, why would you sit down with some random person?
Yeah.
You've seen his picture. But she confirms that he was the one that had delivered the letter for EunTak. She goes, but, you stayed in my mind because you went outside and you stood outside and you were walking outside in the cold crying. And that stuck in my head. Like, why would you do that? Did you cry because you saw me? I've seen people surprised, but I've never seen anyone cry after seeing me. And he just says, you just resemble somebody else that I've known. And she then asks him, what his name is. And he goes, Wang Yo. And she goes, that sounds like the name of a king. And she goes, I'm Sunny, Sunny. Like, she's, just keeps her, she's all bubbly. And then she tells him, thank you for delivering that letter. That meant that EunTak could go abroad. But then, when you leave, don't cry outside because it's cold and your face will freeze. And she gets up to leave, and he tells her it was very nice to meet her. And we see Sunny is actually walking down the street, and she is the one crying now. And
I hate this.
And she says, it was really nice to meet you too, Kim Woo-bin.
Well, she says, so like in Korean, when you say, she said that I wanted to meet you, I wanted to see you, or something. It
sounds like I missed you.
Yeah, so 보고 싶었어. So 보고 means to see, and then 싶었어 means to want. And so it can mean it can literally mean I want to see you, or it can mean I missed you.
And so clearly, if she's remembering that's Kim Woo-bin as the name that he had given, she remembers everything. But then she is just, we get this flashback, and it's to the beginning of the last episode, and EunTak is writing in her notebook furiously to remember everything. And it's raining outside. We see Sunny is trying to call EunTak, and she's not getting an answer on the phone. And so she walks out the back door and sees the young boy that EunTak has kind of always stood up for.
The wind
blast.
Yeah.
That he's actually sitting in the rain, and she's like, where's your grandma? Has she come home yet? Like, come inside. That way you can dry off and get warm. She brings him, like, hot tea or maybe hot chocolate, something just to warm him up, wraps him up in a blanket, and asks him, where his grandma is, but then says that God isn't fair to make people who are already in the cold to be even colder, that things should be spread out a little more evenly. And the boy...
I feel like it was a bit personal.
Just a little bit. But the boy tells her, you should be careful, what you say, because you can get punished for things that you say. And she just goes, what, I've been through a lot. I get to be upset, basically. And he asks her if oblivion would be God's consideration so that you wouldn't be distraught. And we see this white butterfly fly around him. And, I mean, Sunny kind of scoffs at this, because she's just like, in my shop, even my water is self-serve. My whole life is self-serve. And who does he think that he is, that he gets to take away my memories and gets to, mess with my life without asking me? And she's mostly referencing Reaper in this moment, because Reaper was trying to take away those memories that, only remember the good things. And she was like, you were part of, like, you were the good thing. Whether it was good or bad, like, I wanted to remember you anyway. And
this note says that the butterfly is indicating the fact that the god has possessed the little boy. That's interesting. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Because then when the butterfly leaves, like, the little boy wouldn't have any.
Back to little boy.
Back to his little boy. Because he does. He asks the question, or she asks, how is it consideration to do whatever you want with my life and my memories without asking? And then he just says, I understand. And then we see the butterfly fly away. And we then get another flashback. I guess it would be a flash forward from that moment, from 5 years ago. And Reaper's Hubei is finally moving out. He's saved up enough money to get his own bigger place. And Sunny goes down the stairs and sees EunTak. And EunTak has actually become the new tenant, so she's going to be her upstairs neighbor, and tells her hello. And EunTak has no idea who Sunny is. And Sunny just greets her and tells her, you know what, it'll be day one for us. And then when Goblin comes back and she's at the chicken shop, you know, when she turns back around after that customer had called her and sees that her brother is gone, she starts crying because she has missed her brother. Or the moment when she passed Reaper in the last episode and kind of just looked back at him like, what are you looking at me for? And she actually stops at these stairs a little ways down, and she's just crying because she wasn't expecting to have to see him again, and she's just reliving heartbreak. And we also see in that same moment when she had seen Reaper, like this is after she had just left him, he is back at home now holding the painting of the young queen, and he is just weeping. He is so sad. And it pans back even farther, and we just see that little jade ring sitting on the desk. We hear Sunny's voice, and what she's actually doing is she's typing out to EunTak's radio show. And she says, "To you who thought my oblivion, to you who thought this would make me comfortable, I knew the moment our eyes met that you also remember everything. Because of that, in this life, I have to pretend not to notice this tragedy while in our own happy endings. I pray that in the next life we would have a fate, which the wait is short and the meeting is long, with faces we can meet without making excuses, in the one and only ardent name in the world. A relationship where we can run and greet each other when we meet coincidentally. I wish we could meet where everything you do is the right answer. It's fine since I saw your face. Sometimes Kim Woo Bin, sometimes Wang Yo. Please, for a long time, stay well." And she's just typing all this out, and she's just crying, and it's so very sad. And then we get DeokHwa pacing the house. Do they have that in there?
They do, yeah. So, DeokHwa is sitting here thinking about the letter that EunTak has written and why it is that Sunny wanted to see Reaper instead of him. Feeling a little miffed about that. But he still feels like, you know, he has some part in all of this weirdness that is happening. He just can't put his finger on it yet.
Oh, the quote where he goes, well, of course, as a Chable, you've got to go through an episode of Amnesia.
That is so K-drama.
I was like, that is a quote that has to be in there.
Beautiful.
Of course, as a Chable, you have to have an episode of Amnesia. That should be a shirt.
Third generation Chable. Okay. Goblin is sitting in a restaurant, and he's kind of wondering if maybe EunTak is in the better boat for not remembering all of the things that have happened. And really, since she's not remembering him, maybe he wasn't even worth the trouble. But he says, I missed her very much. But she is sitting by a fountain, the fountain where he had first, created the goblin sword for her. And she is kind of looking at this maple leaf that she had found while she was out and about. And while she's looking at it, she is suddenly thrown into this memory montage where she is thinking of all of the moments in Canada that she had with Goblin, and that these two have a history. This is the missing piece that she has been looking for these last 9 years. And she starts to cry because she's like, oh my gosh, this is it.
This is it.
I missed you. So she is she takes off. She is sprinting. She is trying to get to Goblin in any way that she can. And she stops at the Christmas shop where they had gone during their first outing to Canada. And she sees in the doorway there's this candle that is hanging on a chain. And she just grabs it and blows it out. And then she starts to just wail in the streets, I missed you, I missed you, I need you. Where are you right now? And in mid-cry, we just see Goblin grab her, spin around, and he just kisses her. This is the moment we wanted.
Everybody wanted this
Everybody
moment.
wanted this moment. We didn't know if we were going to get it. But they just take, like, a moment to look at each other and then continue, you know, to casually mac in the middle of Quebec. But they go back to the hotel, and EunTak is just commenting about how he ended up keeping his promise. Mm-hmm. He came with the rain and the first snow, and she says, you know, do you think it's the contract that was the reason that you were able to come back? And he's just like, I mean, yeah, obviously.
Of course.
But she's a little bit upset now because she's like, I told you not to leave, and you still took the sword out and you left. And not only that, but you used me to do it when I strictly told you. But he starts to, you know, say that he's sorry, but she's just like, you know what? You kept your promise. We can move on with our lives. But then she kind of asks what exactly it was that happened when he returned to nothingness after the sword was pulled out, and he just says, I just couldn't see you. That's my nothingness.
Okay.
Well, she starts to talk a little bit about why every time it would rain, she would just, like, fall apart.
Yeah. Felt crazy.
Yeah, and that she was even on medications, and that wasn't helping. Therapy, that wasn't helping. And she's like, you know, I know that it was my job to hold it together for you while you were gone, but yeah, that didn't happen.
I couldn't do that for you.
Couldn't even remember why. Go ahead.
Well, then he, you know, tells her it's okay, and then stops, because this whole time she's taken her finger and is just
like tracing his
cheeks, and just, and he's like, I don't know if you're aware, but you keep touching me and I feel awkward now.
This is actually the exact scene that I started watching.
Is it?
Yeah. Today, yes.
And so he's like, well, and then, I mean, it's been 10 years and they never really were, like, super...
Because it didn't fit.
Yeah, they were never, like, very intimate with each other.
Or
like, holding hands or anything. Like, that just wasn't a thing that they did. And so this is a whole different world
dynamic now. Yeah.
And she tells him, like, this is so I can confirm, because I feel really uneasy and I want to make sure I'm not dreaming. And he tells her, you know, this isn't a dream, but she's like, but I've had a dream like this way too many times. Like, this is, I need this to just make sure.
Yeah.
So I'm not going crazy. And he just holds her and is like, no, this isn't a dream. And then he goes, should I do something surprising? And uses his powers, opens the fridge. I can buy you everything from here to here in one payment.
All the toothbrushes.
All the toothbrushes. So they share a drink. And she then goes, because when she grabs a beer, she, you know, says, hey, how'd you see you? Do you want one? Then she just is like, probably shouldn't call you that anymore. So I can't call you mister. I can't really call you Oppa because we're going to be the same age in a few years. Like, do I call you hey you? Like, no, he's just like, no. Just no. But she asks if he'd seen Sunny yet and how, you know, they talked, and she tells him, you know, Sunny's actually been doing really well, probably because you visited her shop. But, like, she's my neighbor. Like, I get to hang out with her. And then she asks about Reaper, and he tells her that they had seen each other. He's not really sure how Reaper is doing right now. He's like, but there's a real friendship that has been formed. He goes, it probably formed long before we ever knew. And so as he's telling her this, she just holds his hand, and he tells her, you know, I missed you too, very much. But then we turn to the next day of our boy baby raging.
When does he not rage?
Because she has to go back to Korea. And she reminds him, I'm a human, so I need proof of exit and entry of the country, or I will get arrested. This is important.
To be fair, if he had bought a ticket, they could have just, like, gone into the bathroom chilled in the hotel room for 17 hours, and then when it was gonna land, they could have, like, snuck back through.
I feel like people would have noticed if 2 seats had been empty for
Or just by the plane.
Or he probably owns
Probably
one.
owns them. Why didn't he? It's fine.
It is what it is. So he's actually waiting for her at the airport 17 hours later. And when they go through the door of the airport, they actually are back in Canada, back into the hotel room. And she's just like freaking out, like, wow, this is amazing. And he's like, did you
we didn't come here to
talk that I'm a goblin? Like, she's like, I just forgot, like, how many cool things are behind the door.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been 10 years of memory that doesn't exist for her. Mm-hmm. Of course she's going to forget, and this is all brand new again. But then he grabs her and kisses her and ...
Yeah, they didn't go there to talk.
No.
Okay, can we try one of these?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Oh, I forgot they were squishy.
Do you still want to try them?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I'm scared. That hurts my OCD.
Because it's at the bottom?
Because it's upside down.
This is a good thing that we have.
Oh, it's goopy.
It's goopy. Wow, that is potent smelling. Not bad, it's just...
I don't know if it's good.
It's very intense.
It's gotta smell.
Okay. So it's kind of squishy. But I'm not sure. It's super weird.
They're like potato sticks, but squishy. Oh, that is off-putting.
It's very bizarre.
Don't smell it. Just put it in your mouth.
Tteokbokki-ish flavor. Weird texture.
Like mystery meat on a really dried out hash brown. But spicy. Oh, whoa.
Hey. The spice hits.
I will take real tteokbokki over that.
Absolutely. I'm good with the one little taste.
I think I'm good too.
I don't need my bowel system to kill me.
That tastes like canned sloppy joe.
Kinda.
I'm sorry. That was gross sounding.
I was more concerned because I thought you were going to spit something out.
I have a story to tell you.
Oh, please tell me a story.
I was at work this week.
Uh-huh.
That's the story. That's it.
Good job.
Okay.
I'm proud of you for going to work.
Okay, so I went to a coffee shop in town.
Uh-huh.
It sells these really, really good ham and cheese croissants. And I had heated it up because it had been a minute since I got to work. And so I'm like all excited. I'm biting into my cheese croissant. I have my iced coffee. And then I'm chewing, and they've changed the cheese inside the croissant. It didn't taste bad. I wasn't upset about it.
Okay.
I'm chewing. I'd taken a bigger bite than I realized because I'm doing my work while I'm eating. So I like, you know how you like swallow half of your food and then you keep chewing to finish the bite? That's what I did. But instead of being this really nice, like melted sort of almost, I don't even know what kind of cheese they were using. It was delicious. But this cheese was like mozzarella. And mozzarella is stretchy and stringy when you eat it.
Oh, no.
So I swallowed, and there was this bungee effect that happened between the bite that was in my cheek and the bite in my throat, to where I could not swallow this bit because it was bungeed to the bit in my cheek, and I couldn't spit that out because it was bungeed to the part in my throat. Here's the thing, though. The entire time I was actually choking. Like, I couldn't get air through. I was like, I can't make a loud noise because I don't want to make a big deal about this at work. I kid you not.
That's something to make a deal about.
I'm sitting here panicking that I can't breathe, but I'm like, I don't want to make a scene. I don't want anyone to think I'm being dramatic about choking in my office.
Mild.
So I did. There was this kind of action for a second between the two bits, and then finally I was like, I'm going to die alone here. So I had to, like, this is disgusting, but I had to, like, actually scoop out the bit in my mouth and break the cheese.
Yeah.
And throw that in the trash, and then I was able to get everything else cleared.
Oh my gosh. Kim.
But I messaged my coworker who actually used to share the office with me, but she got promoted.
Okay, yeah.
And moved out. Of course, I choose the week that she moves out to try to die alone in my office. But anyway, she was like, actually, statistically speaking, there are a large number of deaths that occur in restaurants because people start to choke on food and they go to the bathroom and they don't want to make a scene.
They don't want to make a scene.
And they actually die.
Kimberly!
And I was like, okay, next time
Make a deal.
Make a deal about it.
Just be like,
I don't want to be the person that died in their office on a cheese croissant. So EunTak, she just kind of like strolls into the chicken shop, feeling pretty good about things. But she can't find Sunny, and she's not at her house either, which is really odd. And kind of concerning. But we do see Reaper, who is back in the tea house, and he's sitting with this older woman, 80s, 90s, something like that. But she is waiting for someone, and don't do it.
oh, I'm not.
Okay, I was like,
Partially,
stop.
I'm choking on water.
Okay, good. Don't do it quietly, because you may not make
I may
it.
not make it.
But we hear the chimes ring, and at the door we see this old man in a military jacket. And he enters the room, and suddenly they're 70 years younger. And they start to cry and just stare at one another. And he apologizes for being, 70-some years late. And she's like, you left after our first year of marriage, and shortly after my birthday or something like that.
Right.
And you promised you would come back. And he's like, they created the DMZ. I couldn't return. And he goes, basically, like, I never stopped thinking about you. And he hands her this hairpin that she probably gave him as a token when he had gone away. And he hands it to her, and she goes, these old hands can't do it anymore. Which is funny because she's standing there as, a young 20-some
Right, young
woman. And so he puts it in her hair for her very sweetly. And Reaper says, the tea's gotten cold. I will give you two a moment to talk while I go reheat it. Just letting, buying them time to have this moment.
Right.
But they're sitting there, and anyway, as they're about to drink the Oblivion tea again, you see them turn into old man and woman again. But the actor who plays the young version of the soldier, his name is Ham Sung-min.
Okay.
And you will become acquainted with him in our next show. My ID is Gangnam Beauty.
Okay. I'm here for it.
He's an interesting one.
Okay. I mean, it's fair if you set me up for something
That's all I got for you. But I got really excited when I saw him because I was like, oh, hey.
I know you.
I know you. It was actually, I didn't recognize him at all because this character he plays is the military guy versus who he plays in this show.
Completely different.
I mean, he's weird.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. So, so they're presented with the tea, and of course they have probably drunk it. But Reaper goes home, and Goblin meets him at the door and says, hey, we have a guest. And EunTak pops around the corner, and she's like, hello!
How's it going?
And he is so just like happy for them, I think, knowing what Goblin is going through personally in his own life, and then also just being fond of EunTak in the first place.
Right.
And so he knows now that she's got her memories back, and calls her the miscellaneously omitted again.
She kind of enjoys that.
She
she's
does.
just like, oh, haven't been called that in so long.
Yep. But Reaper, he comments on how he's been listening to her I almost said Reaper show, to her radio show, and EunTak is like, yeah, and I'm already 29, and you just see this expression wash over his face. Mm-hmm. And we harken back to when he had told her, you're going to keep meeting Reapers, even if it's not me at 9, at 19, at 29. Mm-hmm. And so he is just a bit unsettled by the fact that they have crossed paths yet again at such a vulnerable time in her life.
Right.
And he's a bit unsettled by the implications there.
What's probably and what can be.
Mm-hmm.
So EunTak's actually at her therapist's office now, or her doctor's office, and is telling her, this is actually the last time I'm going to see you. I'm doing really good now. I don't need any more medication. And, I have a method that's going to help. And her doctor's a little concerned at first, but then is like, okay, well, what's this method? And then we just get another montage of EunTak just blowing out the flame, waiting for Goblin to show up. And so, first time she blows it out, he's like making dinner, and so he's just like doing this still, and he just realizes, I am not in my kitchen anymore.
I love though that's kind of like, when he was eating dinner and he shows up with the fork and fork. The fork that had like a steak on it or something.
Yeah, something on it. But then, it's my other favorite is, she blows it out and he is behind her and then props up with the book, and she goes, you're still reading that book?
Same book.
9 years later, and he goes, every man should read a book 100 times and write something 100 times. And she's like, okay, whatever, you're cute. She, has the app downloaded on her phone again, blows out the candle, and, she calls him into her bed, basically. And he's just like,
under the blanket.
He's like, what are you doing? But then we see the covers get thrown back, and it's actually a night where EunTak is waking up from a nightmare. Mm-hmm. And she quickly blows out a flame, waiting for Goblin to show up, and she is like...
She counts.
Yeah, what does she count to, like 5 or 6?
To 5.
And she is freaking out. But he sees her, and he just, like... she's panicking. She just grabs him, and he's like, what's wrong? Like, you're okay? And she's like, I just was so scared.
Next
I thought that was all a dream.
You only have till the count of 3.
Right, like, I need you here as soon as I call you. And he gets her to calm down and goes back to sleep, because it's like really early morning when she's having this panic attack. And so, it's a few hours later, or however later, he goes down the stairs and stops at Sunny's door. Just kind of like being like, I hope you're well. I hope things, you've healthy and happy. Mm-hmm. And she's actually at the bottom of the stairs. And she comes up the stairs and asks him, like, what do you think you're doing? I know where you're coming from.
The walk of shame.
The walk of shame. But he sees this future of her, and she is smiling and laughing, and she looks gorgeous, and she's actually with Reaper in this. And he just tells her, I'm glad that in the end you're smiling. And so he leaves, and she's calling after him, like, what do you think you're doing? Like, hello? And then kind of quietly just says, take care of my part-timer, Oraboni. Your stupid sister will be happy too. And then we get to one of my favorite scenes. Because Reaper and DeokHwa are preparing food. Mm-hmm. And they have a system down. He's, cutting
it's very
veggies.
surgical.
Yeah. Scalpel. My God, brain. But then Reaper takes this big bread knife, and it's not a very big loaf of bread, and he is going to town.
He has a personal grudge against this loaf of bread.
Sawing it off. And DeokHwa's just like, oh, I like your watch. Like, it looks really cool. Mm-hmm. And he goes, it's whatever type of watch. It has to be in this type of black, because as a Grim Reaper, you have to be really good at keeping time. Mm-hmm. And Goblin just goes, dude, you just got caught by DeokHwa. Come on. And DeokHwa actually tells Goblin, yeah, well, I caught you first. Because you came to my house in flames. I thought you were going to combust. And Reaper just goes, careless Goblin. Come on, buddy. And, DeokHwa's like, yeah, I know what you are. And, since I was 6, I was told about, this uncle that was a goblin that my family served. And really, I thought it was just kind of a strange and odd religion that they were a part of.
Never thought they meant a literal goblin.
Right. And he's like, I want proof. So Reaper vanishes and shows up somewhere else. And Goblin uses telekinesis and lifts up a pan.
DeokHwa's just like weak sauce.
David Copperfield.
Yes.
Name drop.
I love Goblin's face, though. He's just like, ha!
Look what I can do. But I just love Reaper. You need to follow me. When we get there, you'll see it's not a good place. And DeokHwa's like looking at Goblin like, help me. And he goes, if that's your fate. And just, he's muttering as he walks away. And he goes, he used to be such a good kid. And Reaper, walks past DeokHwa and he's just kind of giving him the eye. And he goes right back to aggressively sawing the loaf of bread.
That was a full workout. I don't know how he did that, but there was definitely, like, smoke coming off the cutting board.
I'm sure he cut into the cutting board. He was going so hard.
For sure. Oh, someone must have lost. I love, though, it's DeokHwa sitting, like, in the sunroom.
Uh-huh.
And he starts to Google something, and it's, like, NASA.
Yes.
And then as he's Googling it, his phone starts to, like, freeze over. And he's like, I'm sorry, Uncle. I'm sorry. I was just Googling to see what the newest, like, developments with NASA were. I wasn't going to send you there.
Right. Uncles?
Hello?
Are you there?
So EunTak gets home, and sitting out, like, in her garden rooftop area is a familiar face. It's her aunt. And she's like, you gonna cook for me? You gonna make me sit out here? Or do you not have, like, food in your house because you're this hotshot producer now who just orders in food? And EunTak's just like, if you come in, I can make you a meal. And, we learn that she no longer has contact with her son and daughter, which is largely why she's kind of, slumming it with EunTak to
help me out.
Yeah, get a free meal, have some company for the day. So it's the next day at EunTak's job, and her class president friend is doing a segment on the show where, like, lawyers give advice.
Yeah.
And so she kills it, but she comes out and she's like, how did I do? And EunTak's like, you did great, you should have your own show. And she's like, you weren't even listening. Your face clearly showed that you were off in La La Land,
not participating.
Yeah. And then does she ask if she's thinking about Kim Shin here? Or I don't remember that part.
And she asks if they want to go for a drink.
Oh, that's what it is. And they go see Sunny, right? And
well, EunTak just goes to see Sunny.
Oh, EunTak just goes to see Sunny? Yeah. You better do this part because I'm not remembering it.
So she meets up with Sunny because she hasn't seen her since she's gotten back.
Right.
And she hugs her, and because she now remembers who Sunny is to her.
In her fullness.
Right. And she gives her a bottle of syrup and was like, I've been carrying this with me so I could give it to you when I see you.
Stranger.
And Sunny tells her that she's going to move, actually. I'm thinking about doing this. I think it'd be good for me. I'm trying to get over my fear of new houses. And I just want a new house. She asks about her trip, and EunTak tells her that she has found her boyfriend. And Sunny just kind of makes a comment that he must be stubborn. And, go do what you want and stay well and healthy. And EunTak's just like, are you trying to tell me goodbye? She's like, no, nothing like that. Don't worry about it. But then EunTak has to leave because she has an appointment that she's made. And so EunTak is, at a cafe, and she's realizing that the man in Canada that said, oh, you again, was a ghost. And so Goblin walks in and asks her, what you thinking about? And she's like, oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. Sorry, that's right. Da, 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 da. And he's like, oh, I thought you'd be thinking about me. And she's like, well, yeah, thinking of Canada that thinks about you. You've been there 4 times with me. You fed me beef. But then she kind of gets prickly again and is like, who was your first love in, like, the Joseon era? And he's like, that was you. Like, you came and you left in the far future. And
basically, I just saw you coming the whole time.
Right. It's always been you. And she just, gets really, like, cute about it.
School
and just
girl
is like,
again.
Yay. And they go for a walk, and she asks him, when I summoned you, was that your warrior Kim Shin? Like, look. And he goes, yeah. And she's like, it's kind of cool that I got to see you from a time that I never would have.
Kind of is.
Yeah. A little strange.
Well.
But cool nonetheless.
Yeah. Especially because everybody else knows him from that time, except for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is a whole new...
the OG Kim Shin.
The OG Kim Shin. And then they stop, and he looks at her and tells her, that's why I'm saying this, because it's a good enough day. I'm saying this because you're still eye-blindingly bright. I'm saying this because all of my first loves were you. On another good enough day, will you become the bride of this Goryeo man? And we just have cherry blossom petals falling and her smile. End of episode.
Character of the hour.
You go, because I've talked a lot.
I think my character of the hour, I kind of want to say DeokHwa. Because he's just so consistently DeokHwa. Like, no matter what. You know what I mean? Like, he is the one constant thread throughout this entire show. He doesn't do this like everybody else. No. Like, he's just like, no, my card, my goblin, my business, But, like, in a more story-driven sense, I think that my character would probably be Reaper. Just, you know what? No, I take that back. It's Sunny. Because she's been, like, shouldering all of this by herself. And, I mean, Reaper has too, but to an extent, he's used to that.
Right. He's lived like this for hundreds of years.
Yeah, and he understands the world of longing and desolation and whatever. But Sunny, again, just kind of gets the short end of the stick every time. But I feel like she kind of put on her big girl pants and was like, I am not going to get involved.
Protect myself a little bit more.
Yeah. I think she was trying to do what was best for everyone. Or what she thought was best for everyone.
Yeah.
Except for Reaper. That was just spite.
That one was spite. But I think it was also probably good for her, too, just to be like, this is not, like, the lifetime that I can...
Well, they were just in such an endless cycle of...
It's never going to be anything different.
It can't change. No, he's still a Reaper at the end of the day.
Right. So, I mean...
So why hold out hope here in this situation? So,
I mean, it sucks for Reaper, but it is the best case scenario.
Yeah.
I would agree. She would be mine. I was actually going to say DeokHwa as well. Like,
really?
those two, yeah.
We're like, so on the same.
We're so on sync right now. Because, yeah, he just... I love when he just calls out his uncles, too. And he's just like, you both are ridiculous.
Yes.
Stop it. But...
I know, they think they're so clever and so discreet, and he's just like, no.
You came in blue flames, dude. I thought you were gonna...
You threw 30 cars in a fit of rage one night.
What kind of a couple fights like that? Ay. All right. Well, that is episode 15, and we have one episode left, and we are done with season 2.
Which is insane.
Of our show.
6 months and 3 days?
It was 6 months and 3 days.
That's insane.
What is happening?
Wow.
Look at our commitment.
It's been a little rocky some weeks, but we've made it.
We made it.
All right.
These are our therapy sessions, too.
Yeah, kind of. All right.
Okay.
We'll tune in for one more episode.
Finale of our this show.
Yep, and then we will go on brief hiatus, probably like 2 weeks.
Give ourselves a bit of a
little bit of a break, a little bit of
recovery.
Catch up on some things.
We both have a lot of travel.
We do. It is summer.
We need to recover from... I mean, you have a lot of road trips that you have to do, and...
With 2 kids under the age of 4, it is...
A lot.
A bit daunting, but it'll be fun.
It'll be great.
Yeah. So, and I'm excited to hear all about Peru, so... And
the land of alpacas.
Get my psoas muscle worked out again when you're back.
Yeah. Gotta fix you. We need somebody to fix me, too.
So let me fix you. Wait, how's it go? I will try to fix you. There it is.
Yeah, I was like, the other one you sang was a One Direction song.
I know,
I was like, that was not it. So let me kiss you. Da, da, na, 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 na.
Oh my gosh.
I used to love 1D. 1D was my original boy band. False. Backstreet Boys and NSYNC.
See, I was a little bit too young.
Technically, I was too, but that's what I grew up with.
Yeah. No, One Direction. Liam Payne, man. And Harry Styles.
I loved
You were a Niall girl, weren't you? I pegged you for a Niall girl
loved
before
him
you even
so
said it.
much. I think I actually have him posted on my Instagram from like when I first got Instagram. It's like celebrity crush.
Oh my gosh.
No, Kim Taehyung or Min Yoongi for singers.
Oh man. All right. Well, on that note.
We should call it.
Like what you're hearing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any new episodes. We'd love to connect with you on our Instagram at the KDrama Show. For more behind-the-scenes content, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. Links are in the show notes. Thanks for hanging out with us on the KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim, and we'll see you next time.